Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. So Twitter has accepted Elon's tender bid for the company. Rather than bore you with all the details again that you have likely heard from several places already, I thought we could explore more the economics of this instead. Now, I've been in the e-commerce industry for about 25 years, and Twitter is not that complicated a company to run. I figured I could probably give a fairly good assessment as to how much it could cost to run something like Twitter, especially the way Elon may restructure it. I swear to you, one very good developer could do just about all the front-end development in probably just months. I'm talking about all the user experience, front end of all that you use, including all the design, layouts, and databases, along with the back-end APIs. But even if you had 5 really good developers, then it might cost you perhaps $2 million a year. Then there is the algorithm. Again, a team of smart people of about 5 can probably handle that. Then you likely need a spam department. Obviously you have a team of engineers filtering out spam and bots as much as possible, and perhaps using AI. And this would be an area for R&D. However, in the meantime, you might hire 100 people or even 1,000 people to manually fight these accounts. Even all that would still only cost about $100 million a year and make a lot of difference to the user experience. For R&D investment, we have the algorithm and we have the spam to work on. Twitter doesn't need to spend much more on R&D. They don't need to try and be anything else. They just need to focus on freedom of speech and improving that. But perhaps $100 million in R&D for that is ample. And we have seen how Elon spends money on R&D in Tesla. He doesn't spend much, but gets great results. Twitter spent $1.25 billion on R&D in 2021. That is an insane amount. It's not that far off what Tesla spent. And what improvements have we seen in Twitter for that much money? It's insane. Probably almost $10 billion spent over almost the last 5 years or so. There is $1.8 billion in revenue, but almost $1.2 billion in sales and marketing, and the other $600 million in general and admin. Anyway, there's a lot of expense in running what is basically a website. There are the servers as well, of course, and data centers, but we shouldn't be talking massive numbers to run those either. The algorithm is likely going to be open source anyway, which would reduce the cost significantly. In fact, you could run this company in such a lean way. So much the company is revolved around advertising as it has no real product to sell, or perhaps until now. Now it offers the product of free speech. It sounds like Elon will add a subscription charge to Twitter though. Well, think about that. It sounds like that will be the model for income, and the entire platform may be advertising free. It seems off-brand for Elon to be advertising to us. Remember, Elon is meant to be the good guy. He doesn't want to make money off people pushing junk that you don't need or doesn't even work. Elon's goodwill in his self-brand is more valuable than anything, even making $1 billion a year on ads. I can't stand the ads on Twitter and Facebook, and likely, like all of you, I never even click on any of them. In fact, very few people ever do. But there are so many people viewing these ads, eventually it does add up. But it's a huge cost, a cost to us all having to spend time looking at ads. And perhaps the actual income Facebook or Twitter actually make is on average only something like $10 a year per person or something, implying that if we spent $10 a year to be a member of these social media sites, then it'd be the same income for them. Same income perhaps, but much lower cost. Suddenly you don't need a sales department and all other associated departments for advertising. But that's $10 from every single user. Well, guess what? It's the heavier users that were looking at the ads more before anyway, and thus it's the heavier users that were likely to start paying as well. Except the cost is probably going to be something like $3 a month. Low enough for you not to notice, but also enough for it to add up for Twitter, if they had enough users. Here's the thing though, it means that all the spam bots would also have to pay for membership. Now, I'm guessing these bots are similar model to the social media advertising models, just big numbers. Get enough exposure to enough people, there'll be someone stupid enough to buy off you, and it costs nothing to make 1,000 fake Twitter accounts. Then it's going to make a big difference if it now costs $3,000 a month, especially if they only made about $1,000 from the spamming. It means it is no longer profitable to spam on Twitter, or a whole lot less at least. Therefore, if this is the pricing model, we've also probably reduced the spam department by about 90 to 99% due to charging everyone. Perhaps there will be free accounts too, but with limited use. Maybe 1 or 5 tweets a day or something, and you can't direct message people. Maybe there'll be something like 3 levels of accounts. A free account that has limited daily tweets and perhaps limited to 5 comments, but also free of ads. Then a paid for account, perhaps $3 a month, with unlimited tweets and replies. And maybe there'll be another account that is $5 a month, which also has the ability for human verification that gives you a blue tick, and it also has an edit feature. Maybe some other features like statistics on your tweets for paid accounts. Basically, I think there are enough potential features on Twitter that people could see value in and worth paying for, although you do want speech to be as free for everyone. So I'm not sure how much you'd want to suppress by paying for it. Also, a lot of speech might still need to be anonymous, and not so easy to remain anonymous with a credit card, a whistleblower perhaps, for example. But at the same time, there'll be plenty of users that are verified humans, which will also help establish more credibility. You don't want to limit free speech behind some sort of paywall equivalent though. And then remember, when you're paying for something, it means you are not the product. Along with user privacy that has end-to-end encryption in DMs. Twitter has 200 million daily active users worldwide. Assuming they all stay when Elon takes over, then that's a lot of potential customers. If just 1/4 of them paid $3, then that's $150 a month, or $1.8 billion a year. Now, if Elon can run Twitter for around even $500 million a year, which is so much money for a website, then that could be about $1 billion a year in profit, or a P/E ratio of about 25 relative to the purchase price. However, these 200 million daily users, well, that was for the old Twitter. Perhaps Elon's Twitter will pick up a larger user base. Something like 10 times as many people use Facebook. If Twitter can increase its user base, and if there are more subscribers, and paying $5 a month, and whatever other extras Elon can think of, or other ways to make money, like perhaps you can pay extra for a sponsored post to get more exposure. Either way, Twitter could possibly get to perhaps $3 billion a year in profit. Maybe Elon will turn Twitter into a profitable free speech platform, and then float it back on the market again. It's not an asset he needs to hold on to. Maybe he was able to gather enough investors to help him with his acquisition, and convinced said investors about his plan to turn Twitter around, make a profit whilst bringing back freedom of speech. What if Elon gives Dojo access to Twitter? Could Dojo start learning more about human interaction? Can Dojo work out what spam is, what a bot is, and what a human is? By identifying certain traits and characteristics, we're hearing about all types of Twitter accounts, like New York Times having millions of followers that are fake, also commenting too, and affecting the narrative of people's opinions on their articles. They are influencing and controlling what they want us to think. Could Dojo be the AI that was not previously feasible for social media, that is required into leveling out the playing field? But perhaps it can work two ways. Perhaps the big data Twitter has can be used to train Dojo further into understanding humans. You see, if you own several companies, they can also help each other with resources, like how SpaceX engineers are often helping Tesla. Well, perhaps we could see something similar with Twitter. I think the main thing is by changing the business model as a pay-to-use rather than advertising automatically removes or reduces the main issues with Twitter now, and could even see it on a path to profitability. With that new revenue model, Elon could restructure the company and cut out so much fat. The entire Twitter board only owned collectively something like under $10 million of Twitter stock, which is insane. It reminds me of that scene in Wall Street at the Teldar Papers shareholder meeting when Gordon Gekko is the largest shareholder and explains how the board owns less than 3% of the company and all the bureaucracy they create within the company is adding to costs. I really don't think it would be hard to get the running cost of Twitter down significantly. This will result in a much tidier, ad-free Twitter with better user experience that you can trust more. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.